This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pm-podcast.com or send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 151. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast. Nice to have you with us. In the 2009 Project Management Podcast Listener Survey, you, the listeners, told me that you would also like to hear book reviews. So we teamed up with the PMI Los Angeles Chapter Book Club, and we bring you today the first reviews for 2 books. The first book is Death by Meeting, a leadership fable about solving the most painful problem in business by Patrick Lencioni. And the second book is Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? By Rob Goffe and Gareth Jones. This episode of the Project Management Podcast is again sponsored by the PDU Insider. And again, just sort of sponsored. That's because the PDU Insider isn't really our sponsor. The PDU Insider is a free website and newsletter that we launched on July 1st. The mission of the PDU Insider is to provide information and education about professional development units, well, PDUs, to everyone who holds a PMI credential. We want to help you understand the CCR program, shed light on the various categories in which you can earn PDUs, and help you find high-quality PDU activities that not only allow you to earn PDUs, but most importantly, help you grow as a project manager. So go ahead, stop by at pduinsider.com and sign up for the free newsletter and the free podcast. Earning PDUs was never simpler. And before we get to the main interview here with the PMI LA Book Club, we have to announce the winners of our book giveaway. We have 2 copies of Terry Dersher's Taming Change with Portfolio Management. And as always, 1 copy goes to our premium listeners and 1 copy goes to our free listeners. And the winners are, first of all, there's Don Brown from Mesa in Arizona. He's the premium listener who gets a copy. And then there is Benoit Ben. He is one of the free listeners and he left a comment on our Facebook fan page. Yes, we had everyone put a comment onto the Facebook fan page if you had wanted to win, and that seems to have worked quite well, so we are very likely going to continue to do that. Congratulations to both of you. And now, our main interview, for which we have 2 interview guests, Joel Fleiss and Hiba Hamdan. Joel Fleiss is the president of Enterprise Portfolio Software Incorporated. They provide project portfolio management software tools that simplify determining how to optimally select which projects should be funded from a portfolio of potential projects and optimally allocating labor resources across multiple projects to maximize an organization's return on investment. Mr. Fleiss is a member of the Project Management Institute and has his PMP certificate. He was responsible for product design in 3 companies that he worked for or owned, and has managed the successful implementation of numerous software products. He was the project manager or acted as project office director for hundreds of successful projects, during which time he started putting together the foundation for what has become the ABCs of requirements-based project management. Hiba Hamdan is a senior-level certified project management professional and electrical engineer with expertise in driving large-scale, complex initiatives to highly successful delivery. Over the past 10 years, Hiba has worked with large global companies such as SITA, Equant Orange, and British Telecom. She is currently running her own project management and leadership consulting business. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcasts feature interview.
Today with Joel Fleiss and Hiba Hamdan from the PMI LA Book Club.
On the phone with me are Joel Fleiss and Hiba Hamdan from the PMI Los Angeles Book Club. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Cornelius.
Well, let's get started with talking a few minutes here about the PMI LA Book Club, because it is our intention to do a few more book reviews in the future. But before we get to the books, let's talk about the book club. Joel, what's the purpose of the PMI LA Book Club?
Well, the purpose is really threefold. One is to improve our project management knowledge by reading very topic books on project management. Then we get together and we discuss our beliefs with other knowledgeable project managers, and we get the chance to interchange project management ideas and network with peers so that we become better project managers.
Mm-hmm. And the members are only members of the PMI LA?
Not exactly. Right now, all the members are LA chapter PMI members, but we're certainly interested in anybody that has an interest in project management, or are project managers or future project managers joining us. Right now, most of our members have their PMP, or Project Management Professional, designee from the Project Management Institute, but there's no requirement for that either.
And you do meet in person, right?
Yes, we meet about every 9 weeks.
Every 9 weeks. So it's not possible for somebody, say, who is in India to become a member of your book club, because they would have to fly to LA and meet in person.
Yes, one of our members will. If they want to, they can connect in remotely.
Ah, okay.
We'll do that. I mean, we're using Skype like we are doing now for this conversation, or some other electronic means.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the books that you have read recently in the club?
Okay, we started the club in March of 2009, so we've only a little bit over a year, and we've read 6 books now, and we're on our 7th. The books that we've read are Napoleon on Project Management, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The Goal, Why Should Anyone Be Led by You, which is one of the books we're going to review today, Mastering the Requirement Process, Death by Meeting, a leadership fable about solving the most painful problem in business that we're also going to review. And currently we're reading Alpha Project Managers, What the Top 2% Know that Everyone Else Does Not Know.
Okay. And where can people learn more about your book club? Do you have a website by any chance?
No, we plan on having a website, but right now you can learn about it at the monthly PMI meetings that take place in El Segundo, or you can contact me at either 310-287-0800 or at my website, which is jf@enterpriseportfoliosoftware.com. That's all 3 words are with
one
no
word.
spaces. One
Okay.
word.
Okay. Cool. Well then, in that case, you've already mentioned the 2 books that we will be reviewing today there, Death by Meeting and Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? Let's get started with Death by Meeting, a leadership fable. Tell us a bit more about that. I think, Joel, you are going to do Death by Meeting and Hiba will be doing the Why Should Anyone Be Led by You, right?
Yes.
Joel, what happens at your PMI LA Book Club meetings?
Okay, as I mentioned, we meet about every 9 weeks. It varies. Sometimes it's 7 weeks, sometimes it's 10 weeks. And we have kind of a fixed process where if there's new members that are present, we each spend about 1 to 3 minutes introducing ourselves, telling a little bit about our project management background, what jobs we are currently working on and have worked on in the past, so that we each have a feel for where everybody's coming from. Then in a roundtable fashion, we each give a ranking from 0 to 5, saying how well we like the book we just read. And this takes about 2 seconds a person, or as long as it takes somebody to say a 3 or a 4 or 2.5 or whatever. And then, in the same roundtable fashion, we each get 1 to 3 minutes to justify why we gave the ranking. And the reason for this is so that not 1 or 2 people dominate all the discussions. After that, we have like an open discussion of about 10 to 30 minutes discussing the book. Then we spend a little while selecting who will write the book report, and hopefully who will, in the future will participate in your podcast. Okay. And then after that, we vote on candidate books. But prior to voting on candidate books, anybody that has a book that they want to nominate as a future book sends me via email a little synopsis of that book so that I can make copies and send it out to everybody so everybody has a chance to review the books that we're going to vote on beforehand. And we vote, everybody gets 2 votes, a first place vote and a second place vote, and we give 5 points to the first place and 3 to the second. And you can even do absentee votes, but then you only get 4 points for your first and 2 for the second. And whichever book has the most points is selected. So far, we've never had a tie. So we're going to work. I guess we'll worry about that when that comes up.
I guess so. Well, then, in that case, let's jump into the books. Let's see what you think about these 2 books. You already mentioned them. Death by Meeting is one, and Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? I believe you start out with Death by Meeting, Joel, right? And then Hiba takes on Why Should Anyone Be Led by You?
Exactly.
All right, take it away.
So let me tell you some general things about the book. It was written by Patrick Lencioni, and like I mentioned, he's written 6 other popular books. His sales are in the millions. This book was written in 2004 and published by Wiley. It's 254 pages. You get on Amazon. The hard copies cost approximately $16, and the electronic or Kindle version costs $15. Should I tell you a little bit about the author and the purpose of the book?
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure that many people out there know Patrick Lencioni, particular from his other leadership fables, but go ahead, yeah.
Sure. He's the president of a company called the Fable Group. It's a San Francisco management consulting firm, and he's kind of a well-known executive coach and a very sought-after speaker for conferences and by major organizations. Like I mentioned, he's written quite a few other books. He's written The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is one of the books we read, Overcoming the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, The 3 Signs of a Miserable Job, Silos, Politics, and Turf Wars, Getting Naked, which I assume is something on project management, The 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family, The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive, and The 5 Temptations of a CEO.
Mm-hmm. And why did he write about this particular subject here, death by meeting? Does he know anyone who died in a meeting, or what was his reasoning?
Well, I'm sure a lot of us have felt like we died in meetings, or maybe we wish we were somewhere else. I mean, I have never met anybody that didn't give me some kind of complaint about all the time they've wasted in meetings, or, oh my goodness, I have to go to another meeting. And I'm sure we've all felt that way, and this book, in a storybook fashion, helps us change our boring, confused, waste-of-time meetings to where our organization meetings can become our driving force behind the company and its projects.
You said storybook. I think it's important here to say that most of the books by Lencioni, they are not textbooks, right? He tells a story. He really weaves a yarn here.
Yes, he does. I mean, it's really You learn some great project management principles via a story. In fact, it's such an interesting book that it's hard to put down. I mean, I myself read this book in about, I'd say 1.5 days, a little bit less than 1.5 days. And it was just, it was like reading a novel.
Right. So who is the intended audience here? Is it anyone who's attending a meeting, or is it strictly project managers, or...
I think it's a little more for project managers than it is for others, but it's also for project portfolio managers or anybody in management or anybody interested in focusing on improving an organization's ability to conduct successful projects. And that he really shows via storybook how you can make meetings be a driving force for your company and how dangerous normal meetings are at most companies. I mean, I've never been in a company that conducts projects the way he suggests via the storybook do. And since I am the president of a company, I certainly plan on making use of what I've learned.
Interesting. So how does he suggest we run projects?
What a great question.
Well, you kind of put it right there in front of me.
Okay, well, one of the things he wants you to do is to not mix projects. I found that when I had my companies, which I still have a company, I too often had mixed projects. So he suggests via his 254 pages that you really divide your projects into 4 types of projects. One is what he calls a daily check-in. Another is the weekly tactical. A third is the monthly strategic. And a fourth is the off-site one. And each has a different purpose. The daily check-in is a very brief meeting. And one of the things he recommends is you don't want to have meetings of 30 people and 40 people. You want to have meetings where people participate and give their ideas, and you can focus on the results, and then they can go on to have their meetings with other smaller groups. So in the daily check-in, you basically share things about your schedule and your activities and where the problem spots are. And it's a stand-up meeting. And one of the things he recommends is that nobody sits down during this meeting. So it's not a meeting where you're going to sit back and relax and, drink your coffee and take a snooze and so forth. It's a meeting where somebody talks in a few minutes and says, hey, here are the problems I'm having. Here's what I'm accomplishing. And the executive or CEO or the project manager, if it's the project manager and his sub-managers, can then decide what action, where he needs to highlight his actions and emphasize things. The next one, the weekly tactical, is where you talk about activities and how you're going to measure those activities. I mean, he emphasizes metrics in terms of things because you want to be able to measure progress and you want to be able to measure success. And you don't necessarily have to set an agenda for this meeting. I've always, as Hiba will tell you, for our book club meetings, I've always been pretty big on agendas. But his thing is that, hey, you want to let this meeting be kind of free flow, and you're not really talking about strategies in this meeting. You're talking about activities and events and so forth. Then the monthly strategic meeting is where you pick out a maximum of 2 of your hot topics, and you give people time to do some research on each of the topics so that they're prepared to discuss it. And you have some good conflict. I mean, you're looking at one of the things that he talks about in meetings is that you want to have conflict. He says what makes meetings interesting is the fact that, hey, there's difference of opinions. So you want to have maybe, hey, here's a problem. Here's 3 different ways we can possibly solve it. Let's discuss the pros and cons of each and select from a company standpoint what way we're going to go. And you want to walk out of the meeting that all the management is in sync with the solution. So even if you're pro one way and it's not chosen, you end up wanting to go with the third way for the good of the company, so everybody's in line with what's happening. And the fourth meeting is the quarterly offsite, which is you might consider a kind of a synergy meeting where you get people to better teamwork and you review your general strategies and your major goals of the company. Whew, what a dissertation.
Well, I think it's very good because I think our listeners can take these ideas and turn them into meeting strategies on their own projects, which I think is a good thing here. You already said that you, as a business owner, you're going to be using these types of meetings in the future. Is there anything else that you found in the book that was maybe surprising to you that you didn't expect?
Well, let's see. I mean, the main thing I found that was surprising was what I just said: the better way to structure my organization meetings. It is surprising. I've written books myself, and I just kind of marvel at the way Patrick is able to tell a story and get across his points. I mean, he does it in such a nice way. I mean, in the past, when eons ago, I was in college. I mean, you read boring textbooks, and you got the same points. Well, here it was kind of exciting. You were reading a nice story that was about an executive that was having trouble with his company, and in particular was having trouble with his meetings, and how a metamorphosis came about, and he was able to change that to the positive. So where that the meetings, instead of becoming a laughing stock of the other executives and jokes being made about, everybody looked forward to, and it became the driving force of the company.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have to tell you, I did read the other book by Lencioni. Oh, gosh, which one was it again?
The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team?
Yeah, thank you. And at some point, I found that the whole story was a bit lengthy and it was just a bit drawn out, even though it was, it pulls you in. In the end, I'm thinking, well, couldn't you have given me all the facts, on maybe 4 or 5 pages, and I wouldn't have needed to read the whole book? How did you feel about this in this particular book? Could he have made it shorter? Could he have made it simpler and just given you all the facts in a few pages?
Well, he does summarize at the end all the principles he teaches you. In fact, I think he did that in the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is also one of the books we read as part of the book club. I'm not sure that you could really get the same effect without the story. I kind of relate it to going to a movie, and the movie may be a suspenseful movie. Well, what good would it be to just hear the facts and say that, hey, the real killer was X, and these two became lovers at the end of the story. It's the build-up and the excitement and the climax and the whole story that leads you to that makes you keeps your interest and your intent and so forth. And Patrick seems to have that ability. Which I wish I had, to really tell this in a storybook fashion and keep your interest and then get across the message. And the message becomes much more important to you.
All right. And let me ask you this question here anyway, because I think I already know the answer, but would you recommend the book to the listeners of the podcast?
Oh, definitely. I mean, unless you're a company that doesn't have any meetings, it's definitely a must-read. I mean, for CEOs and key executives and even project managers, I always look at projects as kind of a microism of a whole company, and that a project manager, if he's really empowered, has to do all the things that a CEO does. And I say that from lots of experience because I have probably 10 years of being a project manager, probably 7 or 8 years of being a project portfolio director, and about 30 years, as you can tell I'm kind of elderly, of being a CEO. And it's just, I wish I'd have had this, or I wish I had read this 40 years ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't written 40 years ago, but it would have been of great value to my companies.
Excellent. I hope that many project managers out there pick up that book and take a read to it. I assume the book is also available as an audiobook somewhere because I'm not that much of a reader on paper. I prefer reading books through my iPod. That's also why I'm doing a podcast, obviously here.
I'm not really sure about that. It is Kindle, and you can do audio on Kindle. So.
Yeah, the Kindle will read it to you, right?
It'll read it.
Yeah.
In effect, it's like books on tape. In fact, I read I read probably 90% of it, and I listened to about 10% of it. When I wanted to keep on going, but I was getting a little tired, I listened to it.
All right, so we got a plug in for Kindle as well.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure Barnes and Noble has their. I forgot what their
absolutely their reader as well.
Yep. And I'm sure there's others. I think Sony's come out with their version of one and so forth.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second book. The second book is Why Should Anyone Be Led by You by Rob Goffe and Gareth Jones. Hiba, that's yours to review. Tell us a little bit about the book. What exactly is it? The price, pages, the general information.
All right. Okay. The book was published on May 31st, 2006 by the Harvard Business School. And it's a 244 pages. The hardcover for the original price is $26, but you can find it on Amazon for $19.77. There is a Kindle version also, which is quite cheap, for $8.55.
That's $8.55,
yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So who are the authors? I don't think I have ever heard of Rob Goffe and Gareth Jones before.
Rob Goffe is a professor of organizational behavior at the London Business School. And Gareth Jones is, in fact, the former director of human resources for the British Broadcast Company, the BBC, and
Yes.
a fellow of the Centre for Management Development, also at the London Business School.
Mhm. What other books have they written? Have they focused on leadership in these other books?
Yes, mostly management leadership. They both co-authored the book titled The Character of a Corporation, which was published in 2001, and Leading Your Smartest, Most Creative People, which was published on 2009. Now, Goffe wrote two other books separately, and these were Career Creativity and New Conceptions of Working Lives. They've also published a lot of articles, whether scholarly or managerial, a lot of articles, many journals in London.
Who is the intended audience of this particular book here?
It could be any manager or executive or a would-be manager executive who wishes to become a more effective leader. And this certainly would include the project managers.
Mhm. We learned that Patrick Lencioni writes in a fable style. He tells a story. This particular book, is it also a story? Is it a textbook? Is it informal? Is it formal? How is it written?
This book is more of an informative style. It's a formal account, I would say, of the lessons learned through the experience of various executives that the authors had worked with or people they've interviewed. And they support these with vivid stories which illustrate the successes or failures of these leaders.
Mm-hmm. So what's the overall thesis then in the book?
It's about what it takes to be an authentic leader that people would want to follow, even if he or she doesn't have any hierarchical authority over them. So the main message is that great leadership requires being yourself, your authentic self, with skill to know how to do it.
Okay. Is there anything that you found surprising in the book? Something that you hadn't expected?
Yes. What surprised me the most is that the book tells about leaders exposing weaknesses, and this is a basic requirement, in fact, to be a better leader. So you become more human, the followers can relate to you better. And I didn't expect to find this in a formal book from the Harvard Business School.
Now, you've already mentioned that you would recommend this also to project managers, but why should they read it? What is it that is specifically interesting for project managers, what they would find in this book?
Well, as project managers, we usually manage teams who don't report directly to us. We don't have authority over these teams. They report to their own functional managers. For example, I'm in telecommunications, so I deal with the hardware delivery group, with the telco management group, with finance, etc. But I don't have authority over them. So in this case, we definitely need more leadership skills so that to be able to gain commitment, to know how to best motivate these teams so that we can get the job done, get it done on time, most importantly, get the required quality.
Mm-hmm. How did the book affect you in your daily work as a project manager? Is there anything that you changed?
Yes. Well, before reading the book, I thought that the image we need to give to the outside world would be to be as perfect as we can. But here I learned, no, showing weaknesses, showing the human side of us is important. And that we may be close from our teams, but sometimes we need to pull back. So we need to have this connection, but sometimes conform, because here we have to respect what the organization goals are, and we need to keep distance so as to command respect.
The title of the book is Why Should Anyone Follow You or Be Led by You? Led by You. So how does the book get the answer to that question across?
Yes, it's an interesting title, don't you find?
Yes.
And you find yourself curious to know why, to read the book. So
Yeah.
the book answers the question by saying any leader or manager can learn to become a better leader. Whether you are a veteran, you are very experienced in management, or you are just a young manager or aspiring to be a great leader. So the questions or areas that the book address are in fact 7. First, you need to identify a difference, a personal attribute that would separate you from the rest of the group, from the rest of the people. So you need to be authentic. And the authors give examples about Bill Gates, for example, President Clinton, Franz Humer, who's the Roche pharmaceutical company CEO. And they tell you how these people manage to have different images that they reflect outside. For example, President Clinton is very known for his charm. He's very charming. Bill Gates, his technological geekness. He's the geek. He is the one who knows everything in technology. Franz Humer from Roche, he relayed emotional intensity. And they illustrate these in stories. For example, Humer was once in a senior executive meeting, and they had a concert at the end of that meeting. And there was a lady violinist who played so well that at the end of her performance, Franz Humer jumped and he scooped up flowers from a nearby table, a nearby vase, and he presented these to the violins. So that emotional intensity differentiated him. The second point that the book addressed is how to expose strengths and weaknesses effectively. So authentic leaders would nurture their relationship with their teams, the followers, and they do that skillfully so that to highlight the strength they have, but reveal some human weaknesses, and they would become more attractive. Another story that the authors highlight is about a person called John Latham. He's not very famous. He's the head teacher in one of the award-winning schools. And John Latham would walk around the school with a trash bin and a nail-tip stick. He picks up litter at the school. Now, the students make fun of him. He's aware of it, but he's unlikely to change. He wants to highlight that part of him, that he likes the school to be clean wherever it takes. The third point is to improve your ability as leader to read different contexts and change and shape these contexts. Whether you're dealing with another peer, another CEO or director, or dealing with subordinates, customers, competitors, how can you adapt across different cultures within your organization or outside of it? And the fourth point is to maintain individuality while you conform, so that you hold the organization together. You get close, but you keep enough distance. The fifth area is to recognize when and where to make compromises. So you ask yourself, can you take more time now? Can you let it go? Or no, you need to speed up this project. And the sixth area is to identify communication channels that work best. And it's good always when you communicate that you personalize what you're saying through good stories, good examples. And the seventh and last point is to understand and deliver on what your teams need, not what they want. So to summarize is mainly to identify your differences, to show weaknesses, to improve the ability to read different contexts, to conform enough, to recognize where to compromise, and to get better in communication and understand what your teams and the company need.
Wow, what a great synopsis. I think if people follow these 7 areas and improve themselves there, then many of our project management listeners here will definitely become project leaders.
Yes.
Yeah. Hiba, your enthusiasm really comes through here, but I'm still going to ask you, would you recommend this book to others?
Yes, I definitely recommend it, and especially to project managers. As we said earlier, we need to work more on our leadership skills, and that book gives you examples on how to do this and good tips that you can directly apply to your business.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hiba, for this excellent review. This is great. I almost want to read it myself now. And get deeper into this.
Thanks, Cornelius.
Wonderful. Joel, Hiba, thank you very much for coming on the program and talking to us about these 2 books. And once again, the books are called Death by Meeting, a leadership fable about solving the most painful problems in business, written by Patrick Lencioni. And the second book was Why Should Anyone Be Led by You, by Robert Goffe or Goffe, I'm not quite sure about how to pronounce it, and Gareth Jones. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cornelius, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you.
And that was our book review with Joel Fleiss and Hiba Hamdan from the PMI Los Angeles Book Club. Here's a question for you. Do you want to hear more book reviews? Please let us know by leaving a comment on the website, our Facebook fan page, or in our LinkedIn group. I'm gonna call for a bit of feedback there in any of those areas. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com. And yes, it's important to put the dash in there. It's not pmpodcast.com, it's pm-podcast.com. If you are a project manager who wants to become a PMP, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcast, the Project Management Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching over 38 hours of video training from pmprepcast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. Some projects never end. They just move on to the next phase. Until next time.